Hello and welcome to a new video series for the channel. In the coming days, we're going to hop over to the programming world and learn a bit about the new features that have been made available in Java 8. The first video here will be a quick overview of what features were added to the language, and subsequent videos will go into more depth about how to use them and how they allow us to make more readable code. So quickly, we'll just set up a new class here. Overview. This should be, undo. That should be capitalized. Alright, so we have that set up, and we'll go ahead and get our main up here. Oops. And have that go. Alright, so what are these new features? Well, the ones that were added to we should put that down there, probably. The ones that were added to Java 8 that are most notable are streams. We'll just do it like this. Streams. Do it like that. And lambdas. And method references. And if you're from the C or C# world, you may call those function pointers, brand new thing that's fantastic to have in Java. And as far as minor stuff that was added that sort of supports all this, or that's just really nice to have, are a new way of making interfaces. So you can have interfaces, we'll have it minor there. You can have interfaces with static methods and with default methods. And I'm not going to talk about those in this video, but I will get to that in the coming videos. And default methods. There are also optionals, which are values that may or may not contain an actual value. They may contain a value or a null pointer. Completable futures. There we go. And a new date. So completable futures basically are for asynchronous stuff. And a new date time API, which is much better because it has all contained within a single datetime API that's part of the standard language, no external libraries required. You have immutable datetimes, which should have been available always, and you have a huge number of format options that allow you to convert strings into and out of datetimes, or convert strings into datetimes and out of datetimes into strings again, in basically whatever way you want, as long as you can get through the regex. So really quickly here, what we're going to do is just come through and do a quick little example that uses the major three: streams, lambdas, and method references. And future videos are going to cover those three in a large amount of detail. I'll have several videos each on each of the major features, and one or two videos on each of the minor features just to discuss how they work, what to do with them, and how they help us make more readable code. So .stream, we'll have that, and we're going to go ahead and do a hello world. And that'll be a placeholder for the moment, and we're going to want to make that have our hello world in it. Now, there's another way that you could do this, but this way we get to use all of the new features. So we're going to want to print out. So how do we make out? Well, first we're going to make a stream, and that stream is going to have our values hello and world. And then we are going to reduce that to a single string. So this is part of the new streams interface. Streams are sort of like iterators, sort of like, a functional version of iterators. Sort of, you can use them as a for loop on a set of data or something, but generally it's just a new functional interface for Java. And here we're going to have a lambda. I'll leave that out for the moment. And since it's going to return an optional failed. Okay, so we'll discuss that in a moment. So we're going to want in here some sort of function that reduces our array of strings into a single string. And what we can do, one option, is to explicitly generate it here. So these are our inputs, I and j, and the types of those will be will be deduced from the fact that we have a stream of strings. So this type, this stream.of right here, is actually a stream of strings. So if we tell it to cast that, it'll say, oh, we have a redundant cast, because that's actually what it is. And now we're going to want our actual method that operates on I and j. So reduce is an operation that takes a function with two inputs. So if we were to have some function down here, private static, we will return a string, my function, foo rather, and it would take two inputs, a string I and a string j, and it would return some kind of string, right? Well, we can declare that explicitly up here using a lambda function, which is another new feature in Java 8. And what this lambda function is going to do for us is we don't even, since it's only a single line, we don't have to have the return, but we could explicitly say return, and we would say I plus this plus j. And that would be our function, and it'll tell us, oh, we don't need the return here, it'll just concat that all together into one line, and this returns an optional. So if we have that, and comment this out for the moment, and comment this line out for the moment, we can see this is going to return some type, right? And that type is going to be an optional of string equals that. It would want us to import it and everything. Import, it throws it up there. Don't actually need that, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of it because that's all done automatically for us through the features of stream. So we'll remove that, and then we have our or else. So we got to get rid of that. Cool. So if we go ahead and run this, we should get our hello world. And we do. It prints it out. So what it's done, it's taken this stream, which is, so the stream.of takes as its, as you can see here, as its arguments either a single value. If that is an array, then it will unbox the array. You don't have to worry about that at all. Or it can take an array of values and it unboxes it that way too. I mean, basically either one of those same things, but we have that. And we have our stream, which is sort of like an iterator across an array. That array contains the strings hello and world. We iterate across the array, applying the function, the lambda function we just put in here, a function of two strings, which returns I plus space plus j, and then we make sure that the optional actually has it. We can do get, but that can throw an exception. Let's see, should tell us which kind of exception. Yeah, so it tells us that's an issue. I don't know exactly what kind of exception there, but we just use or else, basically say this didn't work, figure out why. Now, we have this nice little string down here. Instead of having it do nothing, we're going to use a direct method reference to clean up our function a little bit. So it's going to be I plus space plus j. And this would still work even if we had more functions, or more words. Before we do that, actually we'll go ahead and say thank you for playing. And so that should still run just fine for us, just like that. So the reduce operation, it takes the first two and applies your lambda function. Then it takes the result of that and the next object, applies your lambda function, and so on through there. Now, instead of a lambda function, we can just pass in a direct method reference, which in this case would be overview, and then the method reference notation, which allows you to get to static methods this way, overview : foo. When we run it again, we should have exactly the same results. Hello world, thank you for playing. So that's sort of an overview of how some of the new features can be used in Java 8. The documentation for all the new features that I listed up here is going to be available in the doobly-doo down below, and I hope this whets your appetite for the videos to come. Thank you, and goodbye.